You're all dressed up. Where are you going?
I'm going with Michael to Sacramento to have dinner at Las Tres Hermanas and then go to his Aikido practice or for wrestling, whatever it is.
It's Aikido.
Not wrestling.
It's Aikido.
Aikido.
Yeah. You gonna participate or just watch?
Participate. Yeah.
Are you ready?
I'm gonna be the manager. They're taking over when I get there.
Yeah. Yes, she's alert. Well, she's pretty run down and tired, but she's more or less she's okay. She's talking to herself a lot. That's part of, that's her underlying issue here.
I fell down yesterday.
Yeah, because she's not being treated for that condition. Live here, Mom.
Hi.
Hi.
What's your name?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, why are you not taking your medicine?
Mom's being taken to the hospital. She hasn't been taking her medicine for 24 hours because she thinks it's making her sick.
Let's take a look at the global pandemic numbers now. The U.S. is reporting more than 20,000 deaths.
Crisis
Italy
is defined as a time of great difficulty, trouble, or danger.
And off in the distance, those waves crashing.
By definition, then, we are experiencing multiple crises as a nation.
It literally felt like it just continued for 20 minutes straight.
There's another crisis that doesn't get the attention that it deserves, however.
And it continuously gets worse, and honestly, I don't think people care.
The consequences of ignoring this crisis are all around us.
I'm the largest mental health hospital in the state of Illinois, I think the second largest mental health hospital in the country, which is an outrageous embarrassment for our whole country.
A veteran who killed himself outside the VA hospital in Dublin, Georgia, says the hospital had a chance to help him, but they didn't act fast enough.
It was just a battle with the medications, the doctors, and
1 in 25 Americans will experience a serious mental illness every year.
When you have people that I have routinely come into my jail because it's the best place and only place they can get mental health treatment, that's a problem.
I watched him cry because he couldn't get the help he needed.
To be sure, there are success stories.
So I'm a woman with chronic schizophrenia. I've spent hundreds of days in psychiatric hospitals.
But for too many families, like mine, there is much sorrow. Much sorrow from witnessing needless suffering and premature death.
Happy Mother's Day, Mom.
My name is Mike Estrada. I'm a teacher and a former caregiver. This is my family story.
Got your favorite flowers.
Electroshock therapy may be recommended for other disorders.
Abuses in early psychiatric hospitals took many forms. Knowledge of such abuses would motivate a president to act to prevent them.
Almost every American family at some stage will experience or has experienced a case of mental affliction, and we have to offer something more than crowded custodial care in our state institutions. Our task is to prevent these conditions. Our next is to treat them more effectively and sympathetically in the patient's own community.
Josie Elizabeth Gaeta was born in a small town just north of Fresno in 1951. The youngest of 8 siblings, she had 4 brothers and 3 sisters. Her parents, my grandparents, immigrated to the Central Valley from Mexico to make a living as farm workers. The first house my mom would know stood on the property of the farmer her family worked for. My mom was adored by her family. She was especially close to my Aunt Lupe, who was like a mother to her.
I was the oldest of the sisters, so I remember my mother when she came home with my baby sister. She had her in a little bundle blanket. I remember a baby with a pink complexion, gray eyes and light brown hair. So beautiful.
As my mom would teach me, family meant everything. After graduating from high school, my mom would attend Fresno City College. With her brother Fernie, they'd be the first in their family to attend and graduate from college. Shortly after, she'd marry my father, Raymond. I talked with my dad recently about my mom.
Okay, you ready, Dad?
Yes. So how's my posture?
Good question. I was going to mention that. So sit up a little bit. Remind me how you met Mom, or how you and Mom met, Dad.
First time I met her was after I think it was baseball season, and we were taking the late bus home.
So she was on the bus, and you stopped and you passed by her when you walked on the bus?
She called out to me and asked me to sit next to her.
So she asked you to sit right next to her?
Yes, in the same seat.
She's pretty bold, huh? And only 14, was it?
Yep.
That's funny. You'd end up going to Vietnam that next year, right?
I got drafted in June of '67. I went to City College for probably a semester, then I got drafted.
And were you and Mom together at that time?
You know, we were boyfriend and girlfriend.
Did you and Mom stay in contact?
Well, we did, yes.
Let me see if you can see that. That's a picture of you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read it to you, okay? To my love, Joe, whom I cherish very much, darling, keep in mind, no matter what the future has in store for us, I'll always love you no matter what. Love, Ray. You used to call her Joe?
Yes, I had forgotten, but yeah.
She was a good cook.
Yeah, your mom was a very good cook. She was always smiling and always laughing. She was very talented. During college, she was in the drama class. She was always one of the main characters in the plays.
How much did she love her family, Dad?
She loved her family completely.
Yeah, she loved her kitties.
Oh, exactly, yeah.
My mom was my biggest cheerleader. Losing her has been extraordinarily hard. The onset of my mom's serious mental illness began in 2002. She became extremely paranoid and began expressing grandiose delusions. We didn't realize it at the time, but she was beginning to experience clinical psychosis.
I think a word about psychosis. What is it? It's really a couple of symptoms that we see most often. False perceptions, hallucinations, hearing things, hearing voices, seeing things that aren't there, and having delusions. I'm not talking about political opinions. I'm talking about fixed false beliefs. Sometimes they're bizarre. There's an alien implant in my brain. Or sometimes they're not so bizarre. My wife is having an affair on me.
She'd say people were following her around town and that the neighbors were spying on her. These people, she'd say, were working for the FBI. At times, she'd even accuse my dad of working for the FBI.
Tell me, I was in cahoots with FBI and everything else.
She'd isolate herself in her room a lot and write letters to who she called the posse. The posse was the group of people in the government that she believed was out to get her.
John?
Turn it off. Turn off the light.
Why would you do that? Why would you turn the light on?
What
We were concerned, but we didn't have any idea what was going on. At times, my mom would be her funny, engaging, loving, and supportive self. This had me hoping that she would get better in time. We were very ignorant about serious mental illness. No doubt our culture played a part as well in our misunderstanding. There's a lot of stigma in the Latino community towards serious mental illness.
Cultural stigma is one of the reasons why Latinos are actually less likely to report mental illness. My father has been very anti-therapy until today in his 60s when he sees his own therapist.
The stigma leads to shame. I remember trying to help my mom socially navigate family gatherings in the hope that her bizarre behavior wouldn't get noticed. I was so ashamed. In 2007, my mom began experiencing hallucinations. During acute episodes, she'd hear people inside the house. On one occasion, very scared and stressed, she said she could hear people from NASA putting bombs in the walls.
We're gonna kill the bitch.
To try and kill her. As time went on, her hallucinations would take a more religious nature. She'd experience what she called spiritual attacks.
You give them hell on earth, and you're not going to keep doing it, abomination. The wickedest of the wicked will come to an end. The wickedest of the wicked will come to an end.
My parents were divorced, leaving me and my sister to monitor our mom. She was clearly suffering, so I decided to try and get her help that summer.
I'm Dr. Julia McGee.
Thank you.
I'm currently at All of You, UCLA Psychiatric Emergency Room.
However, as limited as I was in my understanding, it was clear my mom wasn't going to seek psychiatric treatment voluntarily. She had no insight into her condition.
Anosognosia. The brain has actually made someone blind to their illness. And we see that in schizophrenia. We can see it definitely in any illness with psychosis, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, strokes. As the person is going along and they develop symptoms, they have no ability to sort of recognize that there's anything wrong.
In fact, suggesting to my mom that she seek psychiatric help just made her angry.
And frankly, the only way to treat that is to start them on medication, and often the only way to do that for someone who doesn't think they're sick is to involuntarily hospitalize them.
In California, the process begins with what's legally called a 5150 hold. To be 5150'd, a person must meet certain criteria and be exhibiting a mental illness.
My name is Carol Schaefer. I did work for a crisis team for mental health. We did 5150 evaluations. There's danger to self, danger to others, and gravely disabled. And those are the three things that we would look at. It could be somebody with depression, where they're not eating, they're living in squalor.
My mom would be 5150'd a total of 5 times between 2007 and 2009, each time for being a danger to herself. Most of those times would be the result of her driving off in an acute psychotic state. The California Highway Patrol would pull her over for driving erratically and being in obvious mental distress. Each time, however, she would be released in under 24 hours without receiving any psychiatric treatment at all.
Talk therapy can be effective, but not to the extent that medications can. And it really depends on the illness you're talking about, but let's just say bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, those illnesses definitely usually need medication to control the symptoms in order for them to be well enough to even engage in talk therapy.
With my mom, we will never know how much she could have improved and recovered because she was never treated for her psychiatric illness. Sadly, she lacked insight through her last days. So what do you have to say to anybody who thinks you have a mental illness?
What are the facts?
All right.
Because I say that there's spiritual warfare everywhere. Everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You can enter a restaurant and there it is, and you can feel it.
You see him or you hear him?
You can go to a movie and there's people of
Do
the
you
dead.
see him or you hear him or what?
You can discern it, you can feel it.
All right. The system itself is insane. Hi, my name is Mike Estrada. I'm trying to get help for my family. In 2009, a representative in the San Francisco Behavioral Health Department clued me in to one of the biggest problems in the mental health care system. They keep on releasing her after being 5150'd. He told me that most people who were 5150'd and admitted to SF General Hospital were released in under 24 hours. That told me there were too few psychiatric beds.
Kennedy started it before Reagan because there were abuses.
By shifting responsibility to the federal government, the Community Mental Health Act incentivized states to begin releasing patients and closing hospitals. Momentum began even before that with the development in the 1950s of the first antipsychotic drug, Thorazine. Thorazine worked well enough to allow many institutionalized patients to begin living freely, and not just from the walls of hospitals, but from the delusions and hallucinations of their own minds. In more recent decades, various court decisions and the ascendance of fiscal conservatism
My lips.
would further cement the downsizing and closures of hospitals.
It's probably the number one problem that I deal with is the shortage of beds, which drives a practice that is not really about wellness. The paucity of beds has led to this system that we have now where about 2 weeks is sort of an average, the longest stay you can often get for people.
Relatedly, the lack of psychiatric beds often leads to people in the middle of a mental health crisis having to wait days and sometimes weeks for a bed to become available.
When I first started, our average daily census was 12 and 14. And now we're full every single day. And very often we have mental health patients in other parts of the hospital that because there's no room on the behavioral health unit. Frequently, there's no beds in the entire state of Oregon. We have people that are boarding in the emergency department because they are not safe enough to be discharged, and there's no beds.
Long before I was practicing, I know it was common to keep people on an inpatient unit for months, which is really the length of time that you need. So oftentimes you are releasing people from the hospital when they are microscopically better. And now you know it's up to the family to take care of them for the rest of the length of time.
Given the immense pressure this shortage creates to release patients early, the fact that my mom could present well
I went to have my eyes checked.
probably made it more likely that she would be released so early and without treatment, compared to, say, someone who disrobes themselves when in an acute psychiatric crisis.
Come on down. What's going on? Naked man. Freaks me out. I take off.
The last time my mom was 5150'd would be in 2009. For us, her not being taken in at all for possible treatment when she was in a crisis was as big a problem as her being released and untreated. As part of the societal shift against psychiatric hospitals, a number of laws or barriers were established in order to prevent unnecessary involuntary hospitalizations. In California, the Latterman-Petrus Short Act was passed in 1967 to help achieve this aim. The act codified the involuntary hospitalization process.
So 5150 is 3 days, and we can do that without court presence. That's entirely up to the psychiatrist. Beyond 3 days, there are various levels.
Beyond a 72-hour hold, there's a possible 14-day hold and then a 30-day hold. A court-appointed person decides if a patient needs to remain hospitalized upon hearing arguments from the doctor and, with the help of an advocate, the patient.
I have many times been overruled by the court-appointed person.
The criteria are narrow, but like with many laws, there are ambiguities. In our experience in trying to get my mom into a hospital, we learned the outcome depends a bit on who is doing the actual psychiatric assessment. Is it a mental health clinician or a police officer? And who the public has access to for an assessment can vary from county to county.
We wouldn't go out in the field. Some counties do that. At one point, our county did that.
Some counties, like San Francisco, have a mobile crisis team that the public can call to request a mental health clinician. The clinicians go to the homes or the streets to conduct a 5150 assessment. Most counties don't utilize a mobile crisis team, however. Consequently, the public, by and large, is forced to rely on the police for 5150 assessments.
And so what happens is that we would get a call from either a hospital or we would get a call from the police.
Perhaps unsurprisingly, mental health clinicians were much more responsive compared to the police in our experience. Here are two stories to demonstrate. Due to her untreated serious mental illness, my mom would regularly neglect her medical problems, particularly her diabetes. Do you actually believe that you have diabetes?
I believe it's brought on by evil spirits.
Okay. As a result, her glucose would get alarmingly high, reaching over 400. Over 400 is considered life-threatening. On one such occasion, in the summer of 2007, I had my mom assessed by the mobile crisis team in San Francisco. When she was asked why she wasn't taking diabetic medication, she flat out told them government microchips in the glucose monitor were causing it to give false readings. They immediately 5150'd her. In contrast, in January of 2018, a Modesto, California police officer refused to 5150 my mom despite her being gravely ill, psychotic, and an obvious danger to herself. On a Sunday afternoon, my mom came out of her bedroom and announced to me that God told her to stop taking her medications. Yes, one of the voices she heard and conversed with, she believed was God's. This caused me great distress, since her health was very poor then. Her kidney function was at 15%. She was at kidney failure stage. Instead of taking medications, she said God told her to start taking herbs to get fully healthy. She referenced a verse from the book of Ezekiel in the Bible to try and persuade me as to why what she was saying was true. So you haven't taken your medicine since this afternoon. You're not going to take it tonight?
No, it's killing me.
And your blood pressure, if that starts going up, what do you want to do?
Find my herbals.
It's not good, Muhead. What do you want to do? It's 232 over 120. Your heart rate is 100.
I gotta eat something.
That's not going to bring your blood pressure down. You want to have a heart attack? What are you trying to do?
I don't want the poison.
You don't believe these readings?
No.
Why don't you at least take your blood pressure medication, or just one? There's one that works really good. You want to take that one?
Not right now. I'll think about it.
Going on day 4, and my mom has lost her appetite. She's pale and can't hold anything down. She tries to drink. It's the 3rd consecutive day that her blood pressure is above 200. It's gone up twice now. You don't want to go to the hospital? Why not?
I don't want.
If I call the ambulance, what are you going to tell the paramedics?
I hate Western medicine.
And that's what you're going to say?
Yes.
She insists Moses is coming for her the next day. I call 911 in the afternoon.
What is it that's bothering you the most right now?
151.
My upset stomach.
Okay, like nauseated?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just don't feel like eating.
She has kidney failure too.
Okay, do you go to dialysis?
Her doctor wants her to, but she doesn't want to get prepped for it.
Okay, gotcha. All right, well, let's see what's going on here.
I I don't like Western medicine.
There probably were about 2 officers that I knew of that got it. The other ones, I think you're right, that they had this script.
I have to interject to give the officer and the EMTs more information and a truer picture of what's going on.
And anything else that I'm missing that?
She believes the medicine makes her sick. She won't tell you this. She told me that the Holy Spirit told her to stop taking the medication. There's a psychiatric issue here. It's gone untreated for some time. The police officer evaluates my mom's psychiatric state by just asking her a few basic questions.
So what I gotta ask is, can you tell me what day of the week it is today?
Wednesday, I think.
Okay. Do you know what month it is right now?
January.
Okay. And do you know what street you live on here?
I hear that a lot. People saying, "Oh, they know the president. They know their address. They know where they are." That sort of thing. That's actually not really, I wouldn't say a thorough psychiatric evaluation. That's actually, we call that a mental status exam, which you might do to determine whether somebody has dementia or delirium if they're not oriented. But a psychiatric illness is a lot more than not being oriented.
The police officer determines that my mom is of a sound enough mind and refuses to 5150 her, even though they admit she's at high risk for having a heart attack or stroke.
You know, I can't necessarily make you go to the doctor, okay? I can try to tell you the dangers of not going to the doctor.
I feel the police officer neglected his duty that day. Given all that, would you have 5150'd my mom?
Yes. Okay. Absolutely.
But, to be honest, I wasn't completely surprised. Over the course of many years, me and my sister found that police in the Central Valley were just as unhelpful in many similar situations.
For police officers, it's more of good and bad. And from the pictures I've seen of your mom, she was small and harmless in their eyes. And here you are, and you can take care of her, and they've got better things to do.
The police officer walked out of my house after I started arguing with him. Fortunately, my dad talked my mom into going to the hospital later that day, and she was medically stabilized. For us, police never considered my mom medically neglecting herself due to her mental illness as meeting danger to self criteria. That's how narrowly it can be interpreted. The difficulty in receiving adequate psychiatric treatment is why so many people with mental illness end up in jails, prisons, or the streets. Our jails and prisons are the biggest mental health care providers in the country, and research shows 40% of the homeless are people with serious mental illness. To my family's collective despair, my mom became homeless in 2010. She would live in a car for close to 2 years. I moved my mom in with me in San Francisco in 2009. With pressure from me, she started seeing a psychiatrist. The doctor diagnosed her with schizoaffective disorder. Before then, we didn't know which mental illness afflicted my mom. She refused to take psychiatric medication, however, and stopped seeing the doctor after 3 months. Because she was unstable, various behaviors of hers, like throwing out personal property, were constant and unmanageable. Upon returning to Fresno, she'd be evicted several times from apartments for harassing neighbors. She'd accuse them wrongfully of breaking into her place.
Because it kept breaking into our house, our apartment.
Eventually, nobody would rent to her. Her car was her only option. When I'd visit my mom, like during holidays, she'd have little clothes and undergarments. So this is it, huh? That's all you have left? She'd throw them out during acute episodes. The devils that she believed tormented her liked to wear and contaminate her clothes, she said. I'd buy her the clothing she needed. Well, where do you want to go, JCPenney's or Macy's? Knowing full well it was just a matter of time before she threw them out too. We did what advocacy we could for her. When she'd show up to my sister's doorsteps feeling very ill, my sister would call the police and get them to do a welfare check and a psychiatric assessment. I started blogging in the hope that it would raise some public attention toward our plight. Neither of these things worked. On one occasion, I called the California Department of Health to ask why, as the police insisted, she didn't meet 5150 gravely disabled criteria. I thought it was obvious she met criteria. How did she not meet gravely disabled criteria? Have you read it? Since she was, in fact, homeless as a result of her serious mental illness. The department representative told me, to my disbelief, that a car was technically a roof over her head. That's your official position. My mom suffered greatly, both emotionally and physically, when homeless. The stress, irregular sleeping, the lack of medical care, poor nutrition took their toll. I could tell she was pre-aging. Winters were particularly trying. The temperature can drop down to freezing at night in the Central Valley. Approaching her second winter, she wrote me a letter filled with much desperation.
Dear Michael, I'm writing to tell you if there is a possibility that I can come live with you. I cannot spend another cold winter in a car. I'll be anxiously waiting your reply. All my love, Mother.
I don't remember what I told her exactly, but I had to tell her no, since she wouldn't seek psychiatric treatment voluntarily. Telling her no still hurts me to this day.
So Hilda, where is home for you right now?
Home is anywhere where there's the sky as the roof.
Past political decisions are no doubt negatively impacting the prospects for recovery for many people with serious mental illness.
That sky is my home.
Thus, correcting those past mistakes in order to improve access to psychiatric treatment is by nature also political. Here's a short description and analysis on the politics of the mental health care system. On a national level, reformers like the National Alliance on Mental Illness target the IMD exclusion.
IMD exclusions. Forgive me if I get a little wonky for a second,
No,
but there's this
please
law in the
do.
book that says, the federal government will not pay for a psychiatric facility that has more than 16 beds, 16 beds. Now, contrast that to Twin Towers Hospital in Los Angeles, Twin Towers Jail, I should say, trying to build a jail with 3,800 psychiatric beds. So you could put 4,000 people in a jail who have serious mental illness, but you can't put 17 of them in a hospital.
It's called Skid Row and is home to an estimated 2,000 members of Los Angeles County's homeless community.
On a state level, LA County recently came out in support of expanding the definition of gravely disabled to include persistent medical self-neglect. In her primary presidential campaign, Democratic California Senator Kamala Harris came out in support of repealing the IMD exclusion.
Priscilla Quidos here on behalf of City of Santa Monica in support.
Thank you.
Recently, on a state level, Republican State Senator John Morlack took up expanding the meaning of gravely disabled.
Counsel and guidance. Mentally ill individuals on our streets have been a tragic consequence of the shortcomings of the Lanterman-Petras Short Act.
The reforms together would effectively make more psychiatric beds available and widen the door in order to get into psychiatric treatment.
The Treatment Advocacy Center and the National Association of Psychiatric Health Systems.
Reformers believe that it's fundamentally about people with serious mental illness having a right to treatment, recognizing people in crisis need immediate help.
Colleagues, some people just cannot take care of themselves. And we're leaving them to the elements out on our streets.
I think we have enough evidence to demonstrate that our current criteria for involuntary hospitalization is just not working for our patients and for our families. But there's a very large patient rights movement.
Groups like Disability Rights California adamantly oppose involuntary treatment. They ally with numerous groups, including the American Civil Liberties Union. Disability rights activists participated in a social media campaign criticizing Senator Harris's mental health plan immediately after her announcement of it. Fundamentally, opponents believe people with mental illness should have the full freedom to choose whether or not to enter treatment.
There is a tendency that it's quite dangerous to say, we will allow older people to die under certain conditions. We will allow someone who even happens to have a heart attack or a certain medical condition to say, I'd rather not get better. But as soon as the person has a mental illness, then we decide to intervene in a completely different way.
Today I like to say I'm very pro-psychiatry but very anti-force. I don't think force is effective as treatment. And I think using force is a terrible thing to do to another person with a terrible illness.
The pendulum swung to the other side. Well, you know, they have the right to go out there and be barefoot and screaming.
We use the term deinstitutionalization, but the fact is that we didn't deinstitutionalize anybody. We actually moved them into a different institution that is inappropriate for their problems.
Unquestionably, yeah. I'm fond of using the word institutionalized because we didn't take them out of anything. We put them in something worse.
Inadequately treating people with serious mental illness or refusing to treat them at all in the name of defending their civil rights is why I call the system one of benevolent neglect in my advocacy.
They talk about socialized medicine and how they ration care in a socialized system. Well, guess what? We do it in the capitalist system. When we are in the emergency room and we've got the maximum number, we've got all our beds filled, we've got to make decisions about who to admit and who to discharge. They come back and they come back and they come back because they were never in the hospital to get better long enough in the first place.
Thankfully, between 2012 and 2015, my mom found different families to rent a room from at different times, however temporarily.
My son's here visiting today, and I wish you were here visiting me today.
Her physical health markedly deteriorated, however,
Be better. I'm in a walker now.
and hospitalizations became common occurrence.
Lord bless you.
Since she wasn't taking her medications regularly, all this would take a noticeable toll. She developed congestive heart failure, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, hypertension, and more to go along with her diabetes. As much as I worried, I always slept better when I knew my mom was in a hospital, thinking she was relatively safe. That was until I saw a hospital neglect and abuse her firsthand. In December of 2015, in Bakersfield, California, my mom was hospitalized with acute respiratory failure. She was intubated and put on a ventilator and placed in intensive care. 2 days after being taken off the ventilator, my mom began to have an acute psychotic episode, claiming that she wasn't in a real hospital and that hospital staff were stealing from her and trying to harm her. She put out her IV and tried standing multiple times in order to walk out of the hospital, despite being too weak to do so. I requested that the hospital call the police.
I'm sorry, sir, but you're not allowed to take pictures, okay?
To have them do a psychiatric assessment for a possible 5150, since the hospital psychiatrist wasn't available for one until the next day. A hospital supervisor, to my immense frustration, denied being able to do so. Her assertion was factually untrue. In the lease, the hospital has policies and procedures in place that allows them to restrain a patient if a patient's safety is at risk.
Miss Josie, hi, my name is Arnie, I'm a supervisor.
Instead of a qualified or authorized person conducting a psychiatric assessment of my mom, the hospital supervisor conversed with my mom as if she could be reasoned with.
Can you stay tonight, just for tonight?
Come on, pick me up.
Against my wishes, hospital staff wheeled my mom out of the hospital to a waiting taxi cab outside. My mom's condition was poor enough that the hospital supervisor had my mom sign a leaving hospital against medical advice form, obviously for liability purposes. My mom's physical health was fragile for weeks afterwards. If a hospital is willing to do this in front of me, what are they doing to people with serious mental illness who have nobody with them at all?
Are you okay? Huh? Are you unable to speak? Why don't you go and sit down, ma'am? You don't look well. Now, when I say she has had no clothes on, she literally had just a hospital gown on, no underwear, and it is at least 30 or colder degrees out here. She's not a patient of mine. I'm a psychotherapist here in the city, and clearly there are some mental health issues that appear to be going on with this individual. So the idea that they're discharging her if she's unruly, which appears to be what one of the gentlemen sort of suggested, that's reason to involuntarily commit her to the behavioral health or psych ward here at the hospital until they're clear about what's happening. You can't expect those with mental health issues to be pleasant because they're ill.
I had had enough. Seeing how fragile my mom's physical health was and knowing she had suffered way more than she ever should have, I decided to move her in with me. After months of searching, I found a place for us in Modesto, California in February of 2016. Plenty of shower for you.
That's good.
Yeah, so this is your bedroom.
Oh, okay.
I figured you'd want the front bedroom. It gets more light, like I told you.
Appreciate that.
Two of the last 3 years or 4 years, Mom, where were you living?
On different homes.
Yeah, and what else?
The streets.
That wasn't good, huh?
No.
No. The role of caregiver fell primarily on me, having no family nearby. My dad was closest at 100 miles away. Thankfully, he came to visit every couple of months. We also got some help from our friend Sherry.
My name is Sherry Palladino. Josie was my friend. My first impression was just that she wanted to be known. She was super articulate, very sharp, very charming, and we easily spent a couple of hours talking.
I did the best I could for my mom. I took her out to get the food and beverage of her choice on her birthdays. For one of them, we got in a short trip to Monterey, California. It was a favorite family vacation spot of hers. She hadn't been there in more than 15 years. Sherry and I tried to make Christmas as special as possible for her too. And like what, Mom?
Merry Christmas.
Many times, many ways. Sherry, I don't want your butt in the film, please.
Hey, Michael.
We didn't have to worry about her running out of money for food and not having enough clothes. Hey Kim, Mom wanted me to take a video of her room. So it's coming together nicely. And she was able to have her own very room, decorated the way she wanted for the first time since being homeless in 2010.
We have good bookcases and we have some pretty shelving there on the door, by the window I mean.
Tell her it gives you a peace of mind.
Yeah, and it's just nice to be in here and just look around.
With Sherry, my mom was able to make a good, loving friend.
Josie and I feel like we became close friends. Like you and I had our friendship, and then Josie became my own friend, separate from you. Sometimes she would talk to me about very lighthearted topics, things she just had opinions on. It was tremendously important for Josie to have a female companion. She felt as if she could tell me things that were going on with her physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually that maybe she couldn't share with you, her son.
That my mom's psychiatric illness took a religious nature is a testament to how much her faith, her Christian views, meant to her. I became more secular as I got older, but nonetheless, I tried to respect my mom's faith enough to provide her with strength and comfort. We had Bible studies at the house. My mom would lead, as she loved to do. We went to a church when we could also. She loved talking about her faith to whoever inquired and listened. That was a blessing.
Yeah,
Right.
us and her daughter. We taught them Bible study, and we taught them songs about the Lord. And raise your hands, praise the Lord, we're told. And they raised their hand, and they had fun.
Still in pain?
When they start stabbing me, you better believe I am, and they stiffen my elbow real bad.
When my mom had spiritual attacks, I'd pray with her in the hope it would bring her some peace. Dear God, please keep my mom safe. Keep any evil away from this house. My mom's faith in God was challenged in many ways in her ordeal. Why would God let that happen to you?
It's not that he allowed it. He was overwhelmed with so much work everywhere that he can't be somewhere at every second, like people think.
Still, her faith never wavered, and I firmly believe it helped her survive. Does God have the ability to heal you?
Absolutely, like the Lord says in the Word of God. What's impossible with man is possible with God. For with God all things are possible.
The support and structure I gave my mom were no match for her serious mental illness, however. She'd hear voices and engaged with them 80% of the time, in my estimation, whether it was in acute form
You better get the hell out of our lives, you piece of shit.
or more discreet form.
I mean, I would see her sometimes talking from the side of her mouth, or I would hear mumbling, saying prayers over the trash can, or almost seeming like she was cursing the trash can after she threw something in.
While she despised the evil voices, she enjoyed talking to the good voices, or the good spirits as she called them. To say I was stressed and our relationship strained is an understatement. Toxins and evil spirits were potentially everywhere, so my mom was constantly on guard.
They come into your body as worms.
As worms, huh?
Yeah.
Nearly everything was a negotiation, since she relied on the good voices to confirm what was safe for her to do. She'd pray over each of her individual medications. For instance, Ándale pues. She sometimes refused to go to doctor's appointments or walked out of one because she felt endangered.
Constitution of the United States, they use it as toilet paper.
As her health worsened, her diet became more restricted, and she didn't like that.
I remember one time her being hospitalized. You were teaching that night. She told me that she and her caregiver gone to McDonald's that morning, and I got mad. She was trying to tell me how McDonald's used to be evil, but now the spirits had cleaned it up. I kept coming back at her with like reality. The food has too much sodium in it, has too much fat, and there's a lot of sugar in the buns.
She sent you home or was willing to, right?
She did tell me to go. Yes, she did tell me to go home that night. She said, "Actually, you can go. You can go now."
Miss Muffet. Sometimes I'll reference the comic book movie Logan in describing to people what it was like. That's how surreal it was and how good a portrayal the movie is of caretaking.
Who are you? No, I am. You're the man who puts me to sleep.
You both could use some sleep.
No! No! No!
Charles. Come on.
I did have trouble confronting your mom, and you were left a lot, alone to be trying to manage your mom's health, and your mom would always kind of ally with me, like, isn't Mike the big bully, because you didn't want to go get a root beer float, and her believing that you were possessed or something with an evil spirit because you didn't want her to get a root beer float when she was having kidney failure.
A Satanist, an Antichrist, or a devil.
Mm-hmm. Is the FBI still watching you?
What happens is they try to get in with the sheriff's office down the street.
Okay, so the answer is yes, the FBI is still after you?
No, I said the police. They get shenangled into the witchcraft Satanist movement.
Okay, thank you. We didn't learn about my mom's kidney disease until 4 months after she moved in with me. Their functioning was at 30% then. Apparently, no doctor or hospital bothered to check or monitor them adequately beforehand. In late 2017, my mom's kidneys reached failure stage, making it harder for her to enjoy the holidays. family portrait. How nice. How lovely, huh? They're coming right now. Feeling sicker and weaker, she blamed her medications and became more uncooperative. Stabilized, which means to start taking your medication right away or go to the hospital.
No.
Afraid that she'd die suddenly at the house, I argued with the doctors about helping me with the plan. I'll be right there.
Get my purse.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I can't even have these conversations with you guys with her here because she gets agitated.
We cannot force treatment on her. The law doesn't allow that.
I know.
But she makes full sense.
Right. Well, I mean, she doesn't
When she
believe that.
comes.
You know, she doesn't believe that she has any real problems, though.
Exactly.
I mean, so
you
it
know,
doesn't. So she doesn't make sense. To a point, she does. But if you dig a little
there are
bit,
many people who don't want treatment. They understand. They just don't want.
I know. But
have
is it based on their delusions and their hallucinations?
Well, we don't know.
Because that's
I'm
what we
not a
have here.
psychiatrist, you know.
Well, that's what we have here, though. And he asked you to prep for dialysis, but you have no interest in that, right?
I don't know.
In February of 2018, my mom was hospitalized with shortness of breath. Still refusing to start dialysis, her kidney doctor asked me what I wanted to do. I knew I had no choice but to put her into hospice care. Glad to be home?
Yeah.
No more hospitals?
I hope not.
Okay. I laid her to rest in the dress she wore for Mother's Day and the sweater that Sherry bought her for Christmas.
I just pray, Lord Jesus, that you will cover her with your precious blood.
Josie was so generous with love. Every time I left, we love you, Sherry. We support you. We're praying for you.
The motel?
Yeah.
Well, it's a little expensive.
Yeah, but not your first choice of living situation or arrangement, right? You'd much prefer to be living where?
With my son or daughter.
I do my best to honor my mom and to heal. Making this documentary is a way of honoring her and healing too.
I think she was lucky to have you guys, battling for her as long as you did. I see families give up.
Then we got Mom, and then we got Dad.
What about Dad?